The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Why, good morning. Thank you in advance, everybody, for joining us for June Spotlight, sponsored by Navient on the Unity client, and a little bit more specifically, the combined viewer component of the Unity client. My name is Guy Schrader. I am Manager of Sales Engineering with Navient, and I will be your sole presenter this morning. And before we get started, just a few housekeeping items. We will be recording this webinar, and in order to do that quite effectively, everybody is muted with the exception of me on this webinar. So if you do need to communicate with me, please use the chat box that appears within the GoToMeeting panel that you see appearing on your desktop. Also, if you have any questions, I will be saving the questions until the end. Please type them in anytime during this webinar within that GoToMeeting panel also. And just a reminder that there will be a survey upon the completion of this webinar. We'd like to get your feedback and understand how we can serve you better in the future with additional webinar topics. So if you have an idea, please let us know, and we'll definitely make every effort to go ahead and include that going forward. So without any further ado, let's just go through the agenda relatively quickly. We're going to be talking about the combined viewer, which is a newer component of the Unity client. First off, talking about why you might even consider using the combined viewer. It doesn't have to be used by everybody, but it's there. So let's talk through why it might be good for you. What is the combined viewer? And then I'll actually go through a demonstration of the combined viewer from the user perspective, as well as then going through how you would actually configure the combined viewer. So a little bit of a cause and effect, just to give you some baseline understanding how you can actually set up the combined viewer in your own environment or something that you might look at doing sometime in the future. And we'll leave a few minutes at the end for any questions that you might have. So with that, I wanted to bring up a poll question just to understand how, go ahead and launch this. If you have ever seen any presentations on the combined viewer in the past. It's been around for probably the better part of 9-10 months since Highland has actually introduced that. Just to get a gauge to understand, it currently looks like well over 80% of you have not seen anything on the combined viewer at this point in time, and that's rapidly approaching 90%. Thank you for just taking a few moments there. I will close that poll just to let you understand the audience as we go forward. And let me get that out of the way so that I can go ahead and move forward. So even before I show you what the combined viewer is, why would you even consider using it? Because you have a lot of different capabilities inside of OnBase to find the content that you're looking for. You have workflow, so on and so forth. Each of these different OnBase technologies, they really do stand on their own. You have retrieval, you have custom queries, you have folders, you have workflow, you have WorkView. That's great, but a user is going to have to move between those different sections. And just kind of highlighting each one of these, the custom query really is only returning documents that you have stored inside the OnBase system. While the system does maintain those searches during your OnBase login session, as soon as you log out of OnBase and come back, that history is gone. I'll show you how within the combined viewer, that's a nice little feature functionality so that you can go home one day, come back the next day, and pick up right where you left off. Folders, again, oftentimes we look at that and say, well, that's documents only. You do have the capability to now organize that content inside the folders a little bit better. You have some notes capability. We also do have access to get to workflow, which you do within a custom query anytime that you're taking a look at an individual document. But again, you're just taking a look at those documents, so there might be some shortcomings there. Instead of workflow, you really are working from the queue level. You're not really working from an entity, and I'll talk about that a little bit further as I go through this. But you're working that queue. You do have some related documents. Again, it works very well in many scenarios, but you might want to consider looking at the combined viewer in some different scenarios. Case management or WorkView. Another component that we can enable within the combined viewer. But just as a reminder, if you don't use case management today, the case is really managing data. And that case is the initial focus as you're working through things. These cases can go through workflow. There's some interrelationship here. You do have related documents and folders that are available from the different cases that you have, and you do have very powerful search capabilities with the WorkView filters that you have. But again, I take a look at these 4 different areas. You might have to touch each of these different 4 areas as you're working inside of OnBase, and that movement between those sections can be somewhat cumbersome and somewhat time-consuming also. So keep that in mind as we go through this. So let me just set up what is that combined viewer. If you haven't seen it yet, it's at the highest level. It's a new interface that's available inside the OnBase Unity client that allows you to now manage and navigate a large collection of files with some type of common unique identifier. And this is where each organization might look at that common identifier a little bit differently. I'm going to be using the example within the demonstration of insurance, accounts, and claims. So think how you could potentially associate that within your organization and some of your different collections of documents, whether it be an employee, whether it be a customer, whether it be a contract, whatever your real line of business is. Let's bring that all together now within a single interface. And really the emphasis is that we're trying to reduce the number of clicks, the number of screens, and really the amount of effort that it takes to find the content that you need through this combined viewer. All things said and done, this is going to allow your users to better work the file. And you might think of a file that could be, again, a bunch of documents, some cases, the workflow that's associated with this entity, so on and so forth. This is something that was introduced within the Unity client only. So the Unity client is going to be needed to enable the combined viewer. And it was introduced with OnBase 18, more specifically build 31 of OnBase 18. You get this automatically when you perform that upgrade to OnBase 18 and that build and further. It would just need to be configured in your world. So a few different features here just to run through these relatively quickly. Again, we have that consolidated view and that navigation that includes the ability to embed custom queries that you may already have configured, different workflow queues that you have available, and different WorkView filters that are associated, again, with whatever that common unique identifier is across your different documents. This combined viewer shows us different item counts, so how many items show within that particular view that we have configured. There's memorization, remembering where you left off. Everything is refreshable. It's live, so as new documents are being added, you would actually see those coming into the system as soon as you refresh that view. You have different filtering capabilities. You can flag documents for future use. You can actually see what you recently viewed. There's notes capabilities. Besides the typical document level notes that you're probably all well aware of, there's notes at this combined view level also. You do have the ability to import additional documents into the system through this combined view with automatic indexing so that you don't have to go back and rekey all of those keywords. And this is fully compatible with OnBase's full text search capabilities. So if you already have that license, natural extension that goes directly into the combined view. Enough of the talking and the text. I'm going to give you a demonstration of how this actually looks. So obviously we're looking at the OnBase Unity client at this point in time. When you upgrade to OnBase 18.0.0.31 or beyond, you will notice, if you set up the permissions appropriately for your different users, that they'll have a combined viewer button appearing within the ribbon bar. And when I enable that, all of the different combined views that user has rights to are going to be displayed here. Now, I'll highlight some different sections of the screen so we don't have to go through all the details here. As we go along here, your different combined view searches, the view types that have been configured, this does need to be configured by a system administrator, are going to be available. So in my case, I've selected this account portfolio combined view. I'm prompted with different keywords. How do I find that account that I'm looking for? In this case, we've used the keywords of account number and policy number. As I populate one of those values, in this case, that account number, and then use the search following typical OnBase functionality here where we see the search down at the bottom, that's now going to pull up the combined view for office supply warehouse, looking just above that, which is that account number 654321. And then depending upon how we have this combined view set up, we're going to see these different combined view tabs. Notice I'm starting with this recently viewed tab. There's no items in there. I have not opened up this combined view, and these, the recently viewed numbers are going to be specific to you as a user, not across your entire organization, just you as a user. The system keeps track of that. But I'm going to switch into this policy portfolio. Just by clicking anywhere on what we see inside the yellow there, that's going to go ahead and invoke, in this case, a custom query that is configured behind the scenes associated with that account number 654321. Passing that to OnBase, now I have all those same capabilities within that custom query that you should be aware of, all the different columns, sortable, filterable, so on and so forth. If I simply want to open up this motor vehicle report, I just click on it. That document is going to appear within the integrated viewer just below. Now notice this blue box up here. Get my little cursor going here. This is my new column. If I haven't viewed any of these documents, you'll see that there's a little icon that appears for these viewed items. As I view them, that takes it away. So it's just a little visual reminder, hey, I've already looked at this document. At some point in time. It might not have been recently, it could have been a while back, but I just wanted to point that out as we go along. If I wanted to go ahead and take a look at this application, again, I just click on it, it shows that particular document. Now, as I move along here and go into my claim portfolio, again, that's a different custom query. Now I'm filtering specifically, in this particular case, claims-related documents. And you control this behind the scenes with the custom query that you have configured. What documents or types are being returned in this particular case. And again, we all know that it's for account number 654321 in this particular case. I can continue by viewing documents. In this case, I'm taking a look at a photo. Again, my new icon goes away. I don't have to use this particular view. Call your attention to the ribbon bar here, this pop-out document viewer. If I want to use it, I can pop that document viewer out. Notice it takes that embedded thing away, opens up a whole new display here, and I can have this display on a separate monitor, whatever screen real estate that I have. But as I move now into other documents, I take a look at this next photo, that document viewer updates. It's not opening up a separate window for each different document that I have viewed. It's refreshing that view automatically as I select these different documents. Really your choice how you want to use that. Just calling attention, I'm closing down this document viewer window and it automatically goes back to that embedded viewer. So that's the user option as we go forward. Notice we have a flag column here. If I need to just, after sorting through all these documents, viewing them, saying, you know, these are some items that I really need as I continue my research. You can flag individual items just by clicking on that white flag, which turns them into a red flag. What you'll notice on the left-hand side is that I have that flagged tab just above there. Those are going to accumulate within there, but let me just continue by going back into my policy portfolio, flagging 3 more items. So regardless of how or which custom query or which tab I'm flagging those items, those are automatically now going to come back under that flagged tab, and now I see those 6 items, same exact documents, they're now just being added into that flagged area. So very, very flexible how people could actually use this. And again, notice that new tab kind of carries over. I didn't look at these 3, I just flagged them. Now, if I wanted to go open up a different entity, different account number, different policy number, different claim number, I go back to that combined viewer home. And now I can actually see the different recently combined views that I had open. I've previously viewed this presidential trucking, so it always keeps that list. I can come in here and open up presidential trucking now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And similar views, I have same information. So I'm not going to rehash that, but calling out some additional features and functionality here. Notice I have filters that are available on any of these different combined view tabs. I have an account number, a policy number, a line of business. Given I could do the same thing inside the custom query to now filter, sort based upon any of my custom query columns. Or I can actually come in here, for example, saying, you know what, I only want to take a look at one of my policy numbers. It's going to show me all of my different policy numbers that have been returned within this combined view. I can say, just show me 333123. As I move off of that, now I can quickly see that policy number 333123 is all that's actually being displayed. So again, managing that large collection of documents, filtering down very quickly to the document that I actually want to view. I can just remove that filter by clicking on the X. Pretty intuitive. Now I have all of the different policy numbers that are associated with this presidential trucking account. Now, so far I've talked about that policy portfolio, that claims portfolio, and those are all custom queries. And I think everybody's relatively aware what a custom query can return. That's some basic OnBase 101 stuff. But the policy services request, when I actually go in there, notice what's popping up. I still have a hit list, similar to what I had before. I only have one item there, but notice, it's under review. This is now workflow kicking in. I have this particular combined view tab looking for any presidential trucking account number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 documents within a specific queue. This is my underwriting review queue, and here's my OnBase ad hoc tasks that are available to me. Regardless of where that document might stand, I can pull that up within any particular queue. Again, I'm starting with the account of presidential trucking. If I was trying to look for that inside of workflow, I'm going to have to search all these different queues. This brings it out for me automatically within the configured queue behind the scenes. My active submissions is a little bit different. As I enable that, as if you're familiar with WorkView, this is a WorkView view and a filter that's being executed, again, associated with presidential trucking. I set up the system to say which filter do I want to pass presidential trucking to. It automatically displays that now I'm working that WorkView case record as I move forward. So a lot of different feature functionality here. As I go back to my claims portfolio here, I just wanted to call out a few additional things. We have full text search. You've noticed it there the entire time, but now I can perform an OnBase full text search if you have it licensed appropriately across any of the documents, any of the objects that would be returned within this entire combined view, any of those tabs. So if I'm looking for any document that has the word Omaha inside that particular document, I just perform that search, hit my search icon, and now notice my counts all are going down. I have one recently viewed. I only have 4 documents within the claims portfolio that have the word Omaha in it. And then as I'm viewing any one of those documents, it's showing me, it's highlighting, like you normally would see within full text search, on any of those items that have been returned inside, again, presidential trucking in this particular case, any of those documents that are being returned within the combined view. Notice there's a little slider on the right-hand side of the screen that can go ahead and now enable that combined view search. I have those same capabilities that are available to me. A couple other things that I just want to call out before I move into the configuration side of things. If I have additional documents I want to bring in, yeah, I can still natively bring those in through whatever mechanism, scanning, import, Outlook integration, sweeping, so on and so forth. But when I'm on this combined view, I can use this import to combined view, or notice the icon right next to that import center. I'll talk about that in just a moment. And when I click on that, that really does bring up a similar import dialog screen to what you're used to seeing, where I can go ahead and browse my hard drive, I can invoke my scanner. But as I bring that document in, one at a time, I'm still indexing it to the appropriate document type, but notice that all of my keywords are pre-populated for me, based upon what it's inheriting from the keywords on the object that's been returned for the combined view. Again, I'm on presidential trucking. We know the account number. We know the policy number. You map that out so that now we're more efficiently in improving the indexing. But this is one document at a time. If I instead wanted to import a bunch of documents, I can use the import center. and notice I have the ability to add and or remove multiple different documents. We can see the shared keywords just below that, again, being inherited from that combined view. And now I have the ability to, after I've added all those documents, select the appropriate document type you see in the left-hand side of that highlighted area. But again, they're all going to inherit those keywords that we see over on the left-hand side being brought within the combined view. So you can very quickly bring those documents in, and obviously when I refresh that combined view, they're going to appear within the appropriate combined view tabs that I have configured. Just a couple other things relatively quickly. I have the ability to add combined view notes. This is not adding a note onto the individual documents. You still have that capability here, but adding a combined view note, anybody that has this combined view available to them could go ahead and, by the way, click on that display notes that we saw just to the left of that create note icon. Those notes will accumulate for all the different users that have the ability to view this combined note. So now this is a note for this entire collection of documents. This does not go back to the individual document. If I retrieved a document through any other means outside of the combined viewer, I would not see these combined view notes. So one more thing that I wanted to mention here. If I log out of OnBase and log back in, remember what I was doing before, presidential trucking. Again, I come back into that combined viewer, and I can see my recent combined views. That's my office supply warehouse that I looked at previously. If I select that, it's going to take me to the appropriate tab, the last document that I had viewed. Remember, for office supply warehouse, I was in that flagged view. I was looking at that application. If I go back and now select my presidential trucking, wrong place where I highlighted there, it takes me automatically to that claims portfolio, to the loss notice that I happen to have there. So it remembers across my sessions where I last left off on all of these different collections of documents. All right, I'm talking a little bit too much. I wanted to leave a little bit of time here for how we configure this. The system administrator does have to configure this. This is all done inside of OnBase configuration. Notice under queries, we have the combined view configuration. And I'm just going to do a little bit of cause and effect here. As I take a look at my combined view configuration, like many other things inside of OnBase, I can create a new combined view. We're going to work off that account portfolio just to show you how this is all set up. Highlighting this a little bit bigger. If I go into my settings for that combined view configuration for the account portfolio, this allows us to add an auto name string that we see up at the top here, customer portfolio for a keyword and another keyword inside the parentheses. That just works like a native OnBase autofill keyword, auto name string. Notice the format down at the bottom also. I'll show you where that actually appears. That's now effectively showing us that customer portfolio for office supply warehouse with the account number, as well as when I'm actually into the combined view, office supply warehouse, the account number appearing right below that. So just recall, that's how that's being configured, cause, and then the effect on these different screens. As I move into my source filters, that's effectively saying, how am I going to be able to filter these different documents? Account number, policy number, line of business. When I have those added in the appropriate order, that's where these different filters are going to appear at the top of any of my combined view tabs. Recall, I had previously filtered down by that policy number when I was showing you on the user side. Import keywords. Recall I showed you that import center as well as the importing the documents. Here are the keywords that are being inherited from the combined viewer, so that when I actually come in and do my import center, those are the 4 keywords that are being inherited. I can then go ahead and associate the different document types with it behind this import documents. That's where I'm saying that all the document types on the right-hand side, those are the doc types that I can go ahead and map when I'm importing a document, either via that import center or an import document. That's the entire list that's available. So, continuing moving forward, I have view tabs. Recall I had those recently viewed, the policy portfolio, the claim portfolio, policy services requests, and the active submissions. Those are my different tabs. Behind each one of them, we have to actually set them up individually. Those are the different ones. Notice the flagged, that's always automatically there when I flag any of these items, but there's my recently viewed, the policy and the claims portfolio, policy services request, and active submissions. As I come in here and actually put it in the settings for that recently viewed, I can see that this is now set up as a recent document tab. Makes sense, okay, because that was my recently viewed. If I take a look at that policy portfolio and look at the settings there, that's actually a custom query, and that's where I'm now mapping the custom query that's already been set up inside of OnBase by somebody at some point in time that I have access to that's going to execute based upon that. I just wanted to highlight the display piece relatively quickly here. We can set the color for the tab. We can show the queue count. We can actually even put a description within there. And that's what I'm seeing, and it's kind of hard to tell. Obviously, the policy portfolio is returning that custom query, but if you can see just to the left, to the right of my policy portfolio, there's my queue count, and it actually has a red little bar there on the right. All right. My policy services requests are a little bit different. As I mentioned before, that claim portfolio, that's just a different custom query that's configured, but to highlight the policy services request, that's actually a workflow queue that is being invoked. And we've selected off the list the appropriate life cycle and the queue that we want to be showing, again, mapping back to that account number that was configured within the keywords. Hence why I'm getting workflow in there and my different workflow tabs appearing right within this combined view. Excuse me. The user groups I haven't talked about again. Like anywhere else, we need to set who has the rights to view this particular combined view tab. Active submissions is a little bit different. When I take a look at the settings there, that is actually a WorkView filter, and I can see that's my all submissions WorkView filter that's being invoked. Now, a little time out here, and I know that we're running relatively short on time. You can see we have custom queries, WorkView filters, workflow queues, and documents. Keep in mind, this is the first iteration of the combined viewer. Highland has already stated that they plan to continue to enhance this as we go forward. So with future versions of OnBase, expect their selections to continue to grow beyond the custom queries, WorkView filters, and workflow queues, as well as recent documents. Obviously, and as I come back to my active submissions, that WorkView filter has been invoked, showing me that particular record that would be popping up here. Now, when I go back to that entire combined view, here are my search keywords. Remember how I started. I could search based upon that account number and the policy number. Hence the reason why when I had the combined view search, when I selected the account portfolio, those are my two keywords that I actually see appearing there. And last but not least, I have the user groups that have availability to get to this combined view type. Again, I have managers set up in that particular case. So that was a whirlwind tour of combined viewer and how you actually configure it. Again, you will have this. How much does this thing cost? Well, again, you get it within the Unity client. You do need to be licensed for the Unity client. If you don't have that Unity client, we'll show you just in a second, please contact your account representative. They're the ones that will be able to share with you what the pricing is. And do remember, this is OnBase 18, Build 31, and beyond, where this is now made available. Might be another reason why you might want to consider an upgrade to OnBase going forward. It does not come configured out of the box. Somebody needs to go into configuration, set up the different portfolio types, set up the appropriate different view tabs that you have to make this available, and obviously grant the permissions to your different user groups. How do you get it? If you don't have the Unity client, you need to contact your Navient account executive to talk that through, get that licensed, and then obviously configure the combined view going forward. With that, we have left a little bit of time for questions. Let me see what we have for questions, and we have a nice long list. So please stick around with us as I go through this. Let me just read through these before I pose them back to you. Don't you have to pay the higher multi-user server difference to get the combined viewer? Actually, to answer that question more specifically, you have, if you are already licensed for the Unity client, you need, if you already have that licensed, there is an additional upcharge that if you don't have it, unfortunately the price went up a little bit, but you do have to pay the additional maintenance associated with the multi-user, with the Unity client server license. You would actually just see that happening on your next maintenance renewal. Next question. When using filters in a custom query, it will hold all filter settings between searches. Will combined viewer do the same? Meaning, do you need to clear filters before moving between searches? I don't know whether I have a straight answer to that question, because these are different filters inside the combined view versus the filters that are utilized inside the custom query. I believe that those filters are cleared, the combined viewer filters, across the different sessions that you have. But again, it will retain the last document that you took a look at. Combined view still respects security? Question mark. Yes, it does. Meaning I can only make one combined view and share to multiple groups, and it will only return docs they have rights to both through their user groups and security keywords. Yes, your base level of security to the document types and these security keywords are respected when using the combined viewer going forward. Obviously, the combined views, those have their own security also. Next question, for both import and search, do all keywords need to be presented to be used? Or they just need to have one primary keyword in common? Let me read that question one more time. I'm not quite sure I fully understand that, because keep in mind we have the search keywords and the import keywords. The search keywords, you can use any of those values to actually find the item. You don't have to use all the search criteria. So rather than trying to dig in on that particular question, I'm going to move forward. So Brian, I apologize if I didn't answer your question fully. Next question, would agenda management fall under the purview of workflow for the combined viewer? Well, it depends upon how you have agenda management set up. If you're thinking about the workflow portion of agenda management, you're routing an agenda item to different individuals, yes, absolutely. That workflow queue that might be for review and approval could surely be included within the combined viewer. The base components of agenda management, where I'm managing an upcoming meeting, adding agenda items, no, that would not be part of that, just the workflow piece. Do you know if there is any training for this on premium subscription? Yes, I know that there has been some information, some training courses added within premium subscription. I would suggest you log in there and search for combined viewer. I know that there for sure is at least one that's out there. Are there any plans mentioned to include dashboard reports? I don't have an answer to that question. Highland at this point in time has, as normal, has been pretty tight-lipped for what they're planning on adding to the product going forward. I cannot say I've heard really about anything that they plan on adding at this point in time, besides the fact that they've stated this first iteration, they plan on adding additional capabilities going forward. All right, that appears to conclude the questions. I will hang around just for a little bit if you do have any more questions, but for anybody that's still on the line, thank you so much for taking the time and listening to this webinar. Again, this will be recorded. Everybody will get a link to this recording going forward for future reference. Just a relatively quick pitch here. Upcoming events, we do have a support webinar on OnBase reporting dashboards on Wednesday, July 17th. So if you haven't seen any invites for that, please mark that to your calendar. You will be seeing some additional marketing on that coming up sometime in the future. Again, a nice, great enhancement to OnBase if you're not using that. And again, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. Please let me know if you have any questions, or as always, reach out to your account rep for any further discussions pertaining to Combined Viewer. Thank you so much, and everybody have a great day.